Welcome to tonight's live stream. I'm going to get started in a minute. I just need to take your. I am going to get started in a minute. I just need to let everybody know that the stream is getting ready to start. What's going on, Steve Owalamak? Great to see you here. What's going on, Steve Owalamak? Great to see you here. Okay, I'm going to get ready to start with tonight's show. And tonight's show is in response to, no, well, it's in response to a tweet that I saw on Twitter. And this tweet on Twitter, which I'm going to leave a link to so you guys can take a look at it, is a tweet that was made in July by a woman who made this tweet on Twitter. This Miracle Shadrach, she made this tweet stating, "Who noticed that men are no longer persuasive once they ask you out and you say no, case closed." Now, when I took a critical examination of this tweet, well, I'll turn it up. No, case closed. Now, I took a critical examination of this tweet. Well, I'm going to start all over again. I'll just start all over again. All right, can you guys hear me now? Okay, before I go into the tweet on Twitter, I'm going to start all over again, and I'm going to go into some perfunctory. So, if you guys don't know, I have two books out: John Haynes, Taking Care of Business, and Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess, and you can find these two on Amazon right now in paperback and Kindle format. And I'm looking to try to get the sales up, so I'm asking everybody to go out here and pick up these two books. And I also want to give you guys another progress report on John Haynes at Death's Door. And I've picked an artist and I've hired him, and I've seen some samples of the first couple of pages. So the book is being put together as we speak. So the John Haynes at Death's Door project is on, and I'm hoping to have a finished book sooner rather than later. And the art I've shown to a couple of people is absolutely fantastic, and I can't wait to share the John Haynes at Death's Door comic with you. Now, in addition to that, I also want to take a minute to tell you guys about Raymond Leonard's new Agent Solo number 3. And this is an awesome comic. by Raymond Leonard. So I really want you guys to head over to Indiegogo and head over to Indiegogo and put in a pledge. That'll help Raymond with his project. I wanted to see it get funded, and also want to see him be able to continue making more great comics. So I'm asking everybody to head over there and pick up Raymond Leonard's Agent Solo #3. Now, with that perfunctory over, I'm going to get into tonight's topic once again. And once again, I'm going to be talking about this tweet that I saw on Twitter. And in this tweet that I saw on Twitter, which is dated July 26, this female, Miracle Shadrach, asked the question, who noticed that men are no longer persuasive once they ask you out and you say no, case closed. Now, this whole tweet, as I see it, comes from a female who really does not understand the state of today's world or the state of the world over the last 30 years. Now, over the last 30 years, most men out here and most boys were raised to understand a single concept that was drilled into them day after day, and that concept is no means no, which is Gordon has just put up in the chat. And that whole thing, that whole point that men were and boys were indoctrinated in, is why many males out here, whether they be boys or men, do not go out here trying to be persuasive, because most boys out here who were raised back in the 90s, they know from watching numerous TV shows, they were taught that no means no, and they were taught no means no in school. So they learned early on to, whenever a woman says no, to take her at her word and walk away. And that's why a lot of guys out here, they go out here and when they hear a woman say no, they don't keep trying to persuade you, because they know that there are consequences for going out here and trying to call yourself being so-called persuasive. Because when you call yourself being so-called persuasive by continuing to persist, what happens to a man these days is he can wind up in some serious trouble, because these days, in this era of Me Too, a man who calls himself being so-called persuasive, this is a man who could possibly wind up losing his job if he's on a job as related to claims of sexual harassment. And if he's on the street these days, he can be arrested for harassment. And these are the two core reasons why many of your men are not being so-called persuasive, because feminists have persuaded them that there are consequences for their actions. And because they see that there are consequences for their actions and have been raised to believe that there are consequences for their actions, many men have chosen not to continue to try to keep pursuing a woman who clearly says directly she is not interested in them. So that's why you have men who take no for an answer, because we've had two, I believe, generations of men who were taught that no means no, and they were taught that when a woman says no, that is the final answer that comes from them. So when a woman says she's not interested, most men will put a period at the end of things, charge that woman to the game, and keep it moving. And many of the females out here who make these type of statements like this Miracle Shadrach, they clearly have not heard what has been transpiring over the last 30 years as related to our culture. It's clear to me that this woman must have been living under a rock, because everybody who has been around for the last 30 plus years in the world knows that's the main reason why guys will just stop pursuing somebody after a woman says no. Now, before the last 30 years took place, what we saw with a lot of guys, they would go out here and they would try to be so-called persuasive. And some of the females, seeing that the guy would continue to pursue, what they would do is play this game called hard to get. Now, this hard to get game was meant to try to make the guy think that the woman had value. And because the guy thought the woman had value, he would go out here and try to chase the woman. And as he continued to try to chase the woman, what the woman would do is try to avoid getting involved with this guy, keep saying no to this guy. But what has happened over the last 30 years is that you can't play the hard to get game, because in today's society, if the woman plays the hard to get game, two things are going to happen to that woman. One, because we live in an era of no means no and an era of me too, if a man persists, he's going to wind up jamming himself up, either by, in some situations, losing his job, or in some cases, losing his freedom. Because most men have too much to lose these days, they cannot deal with females who play the hard to get game, because they are going to have a harder time in life if they go out here and deal with this kind of female. Because this female, in her efforts to try to crap test a man in an effort to see how far he will go to try to take care of her, this is the thing that puts a man at risk of losing everything that he worked for. So a lot of guys out there, they believe that they have too much to lose. So when they see a female trying to play the hard to get game, they wind up saying that it's just going to be too much of a hard time for them. And they realize that there's just too much for them to risk by trying to get involved with this woman. And many more, they just don't want to deal with the kind of stresses from this woman's crap test, because they know that if this is the start of the relationship and she's running these hard to get crap test games, then this is not going to end in a way that's going to benefit the man, because the games are going to escalate. And once the games start escalating, what happens is she's going to keep raising the bounty and keep having to try to chase her. And most guys just realize at that point that she's just going to keep raising the bar and keep putting up one impossible task after the other. And because she's going to keep putting one impossible task after the other, that's when that man is just going to say, you know what, it's just not worth it these days. And that's why many men out here are just saying, look, if she wants to play hard to get, then I'm not going to waste my time, because my time is too precious to deal with someone who is playing this hard to get game. So I'm not going to keep playing along, because eventually it's just a losing game. Now, the second thing that happens to women who play hard to get is that the guys just cut off all contact, because in today's dating market, where women outnumber men 4-1, many men out here, they know that they have more options. So the guys who have value themselves, they don't go out here dealing with the hard to get woman, because there are other options for them. So they will just cut off contact with that female who starts the hard to get crap test games. And they're not going to sit there and try to play this game where they are trying to prove themselves to these women out here. Now, back in the 60s and the 70s, a lot of guys would try to be persuasive in an effort to try to win a woman over. But that game ended when the feminist movement came along, and it ended when these women started saying no means no. So when a lot of these guys out here, they're sitting there going, look, I'm not going to try to play with this woman talking about hard to get, because how is she hard to get if there are several other out here who are willing to give me attention and time? So those guys look at the hard to get woman and they just leave her right where they find her, because they don't have time for games, and they feel disrespected because the hard to get game, it's something that really is extremely disrespectful to a man. Now, some of these females may believe, oh, this I want to see if this man really cares about me, if this man really values me. But the way you show that you value this man is by showing respect for that man and showing some respect for this man's time. So a lot of guys out here, they understand the concept of time, and they don't want to waste their time dealing with a female who is out here talking about, well, why aren't men persuasive? Well, if there's nothing, if I see myself having to jump through hoops early on, then it's just not worth the time. And that's what a lot of men are saying to themselves these days. Their time is extremely precious. And because they understand how precious their time is, they don't want to waste it trying to call themselves, trying to chase after a female, because chasing after a female is a complete waste of the most important intangible of all, and that intangible is time. Now, I go in depth on this in my book, Stop Simping, Why Men Don't Need Finance to Get Romance. And I talk about that whole concept of time in Stop Simping in depth. So you guys can pick up a copy of Stop Simping and learn a bit more about that concept. Thank you, Mobar, for the super chat. He says, greetings, everyone. Hello, Brother Sean. Hello, Mobar, and hello, everybody else. I'm glad to see you here, Gabriel. First time I've seen you at a live stream. It's just great to see you here. Go through it. Computer Robots, glad to see you here. Glad to see you here, Reginald. Glad to see you here, Byfor and T-Mac and Gordon. Glad to see you all here. But the whole thing is, a man's time is precious, and a man is not going to sit here and waste his time trying to go out here and persuade a woman, because he understands that trying to convince this woman that he is worthy of her time is a waste of his time, because the man who is God's steward is the head and he is the leader. So the man is not out here looking to chase after the woman. No, many men are understanding their role as a man in God's order, and they're also understanding their value as men. So after the women did this no means no, some men out here did an assessment of self like I did and realized that when a woman says no, that it's something that's a positive to him. And the reason why it's a positive to him is because he can now move on to deal with women who are far more cooperative and more willing to want to work with him. So they're not going to sit there and waste their time trying to convince a woman to say yes to them. No guy's going to sit there and keep trying to persuade you to see his value. No guy is going to sit there and waste valuable time out of his life like a Steve Urkel on Family Matters, the old 90s show, trying to wear down a female. No, that's something that's so outdated and so archaic, it's just not done anymore. And many guys don't do that anymore because they understand, one, the concept of time, and two, they understand that a lot of these females that are saying no to them have been saying yes to other guys. And if they are saying yes to other guys, then they don't see them as a priority. So a guy out here who understands his value as a man, he's not going to sit there and try to call himself trying to persuade some female to say yes to him, because he understands that if she's not saying yes from minute one, it's just not worth his time to keep begging and pleading and trying to get this woman to say yes to him when there are 3 or 4 other women who would say yes to him. And he's going to play the numbers game because he understands that it's just a waste of time to keep dealing with the same female and keep trying to ask the same question over and over. Because when you ask the same question over and over and get the same answer, it's the definition of insanity, because you're doing the exact same thing and you are expecting a different result. And it is completely insane for a man to go out here and keep asking the same woman over and over again. And again, that takes us back to what the laws now say about that type of behavior, because that's considered stalking under today's laws as related to no means no and me too. So that's one of the other reasons why your American man and your Western man is not out here calling himself being persistent, calling himself trying to talk to the same woman over and over again, because if she's not interested, there is nothing you can do to persuade her. Now, most men out here, they understand a concept that I learned a long time ago, and that concept is if a woman usually is interested in a man within the first 5 seconds of looking at him, and in that first 5 seconds, she decides whether or not she wants to pursue a relationship with you. So why would I sit there and continue to ask the same woman over and over again if within the first 5 seconds of being involved with the man or looking at him, that she decides whether or not she wants to be involved with him? And that's a concept that flew over the head of this female who dropped that tweet on Twitter. She doesn't really understand how relationships work. And I believe she didn't understand how relationships work because she probably came from one of these single mother households. And because she came from one of these single mother households, she's sitting there thinking, oh, men are going to try to be persuasive. They're going to keep trying to ask you out over and over again. But no man is going to do that these days. And there's again, reasons why they're not going to do that. And one of them, again, is that your man has been raised in a lot of households, conditioned culturally through media and through HR meetings and things like that, to understand that he has to take no for an answer. And that's one of the reasons why. The other reason why is because a man understands the concept of time, and a man understands that he needs to go out here and move on. It's not like the old days where these guys would just keep pushing because they thought that there was something there. But these days, a guy knows that there could be something worse for him. So a guy is just going to sit there and he's going to leave a female alone and then go on and go talk to other females. So this woman, she's sitting here and she's wondering, oh, why aren't guys persuasive? Guys don't want to be persuasive. And again, today's man has nothing really to prove to America's females anymore, because today's female is somebody who isn't really impressed by today's man, because she has her own job, she makes her own money, she's the independent woman. So a guy doesn't have to go out here and sell himself, and he never really did have to sell himself to go out here and try to impress her. Now, a lot of these simps, they would go out of their way to try to persuade and impress a woman, but those guys, they do that because they don't really understand how relationships work due to dysfunctional way a lot of these guys were raised. Now, guys who understand how relationships work, they're not sitting here trying to persuade any female. No, they don't. They know that they cannot persuade a female who, again, in 5 seconds of looking at you, already knew who she was interested in, and knows that she will go out here and approach that guy and let him know that she's interested. That woman usually, again, she will let the guy know through nonverbal cues or body language, or even going up to approach that guy. So she's gonna go to the kind of guys she wants, and she's gonna go and try to let them know that she's interested, and she's gonna eagerly say yes to those guys. She's not gonna she's going to go out of her way for those kind of men. And those kind of men, they don't have to go out here and keep being persistent and being persuasive. No, she will open the door almost immediately for those kind of dudes almost immediately. So any guys out here thinking, oh, I can go out here and if I keep asking over and over again, eventually she will just eventually say yes, is just wasting his time because she already is going to choose who she's going to choose. And that's something many males out here never really get because they buy into dating concepts from dating coaches, Madison Avenue in Hollywood, about relationships, and they don't really understand how things work because the way things work are very simple. And again, when a woman is saying no to a man, that's because she's just not into him. And again, we go back to that book, he's just not that into you. And a lot of females have to understand the whole concept of he's not that just not that into you either. Because there's a book that said she's just not that into you. Well, he's not into you, and he knows when she's not into you, and he's just gonna see what's there, and realize it's there, and just move on. So when you have a guy who doesn't understand these concepts, he will just keep going out here trying to chase the same woman and not realize that he's never going to get anywhere because they just don't have anything in common. Because usually people, they know who they're attracted to, and that's the kind of person who is drawn to them. So usually when a person is attracted to another person, they can feel something instinctively. They can feel the energy. You can practically feel it in the air. And a guy doesn't have to go out here and keep trying to go after the same woman to convince her, because there's no need to convince anyone. It's just going to happen. Now, these guys who are, this woman on Twitter, she's sitting there talking about, again, that she wants the men to be persuasive and keep trying to play these little games. But guys don't play games anymore because there's just too much to lose playing with a game with a female who is playing these kind of games. I mean, it's a game these days a guy can easily lose, because if you're dealing with this kind of female and she's playing these little these little no and maybe type games, this can turn really sour for a dude, and it can turn into something that can jam him up real bad. Because if he keeps pursuing these kind of females, what's going to happen is she's going to sit there and say that he did something, he's harassing me, and she's going to change up the story. And that kind of crap test is something a guy can't get out of, because if she goes out here and has to play these games, it can lead to a guy either getting beat up by some dudes, or it can lead to the police getting involved, or if he's messing around outside at the job, he can possibly winding up getting fired and destroying his professional reputation. So a lot of guys these days, seeing the new boundaries and parameters established by females, they are just trying to walk around those boundaries and parameters that were established by America's females. And these boundaries, again, they are there and they are real. And most guys, when they see these boundaries, they treat carefully, because they know if they skirt those lines, they could wind up losing a lot these days in this era of Me Too. Because in this era of Me Too, which is still not over, even after the Bill Cosby conviction, again, a man can lose his intangibles like his job, his career, and he can lose the most important intangible of all, his freedom. And because a man needs his freedom to navigate the world, that's why most American men and most Western men are willing to just take no for an answer and keep it moving. And they keep it moving because they want to go out here and be able to work. They want to be able to go out here and be able to take care of themselves. They want to be able to go out here and make a living. So they don't want to risk or jeopardize their whole livelihoods in an effort to try to go out here and pursue one woman. Thank you, Rachel X, for the super chat. I really appreciate it. If you guys want to donate to the super chat, you can do so as well. And if you want to donate to the Cash App, that would even be more appreciated because 100% of Cash App donations go to me, whereas when you donate to the super chat, 1/3 of that goes to Google, and we can cut out the middleman if you just donate to the Cash App. So it's greatly appreciated. Thank you, Rachel X. Thank you, Mobar, for the super chat. And I'm going to keep talking about this subject because I really want to educate people about what's going on. Because when I look at this tweet from Twitter, she's again talking from a point that I saw die back in the early 90s when I was watching the Clarence Thomas hearings. Because before the Clarence Thomas hearings, you still had guys out here who would go out here and make that kind of effort. They would deal with these kind of difficult and resistant kind of females. And because they would try to keep trying to push, they would eventually see themselves going somewhere. But once we had the Clarence Thomas hearings and the whole foundation of the boundary established as related to sexual harassment, that's when we started to see men starting to put some distance between themselves and your Western female. Now, after the Clarence Thomas hearings, we saw the boundary further get more cemented with things that went on, like the Me Too movement. And once the Me Too movement came along and created the really, as I see it, ironclad boundary, that's where guys started to say, you know what, we already know that no means no. And now we know that a look can jam us up. So we're not going to just try to persist in situations, because if we persist in a situation like D Wood 78 has stated, you could lose your freedom, wind up behind bars, and then they're going to then Bubba and Tiny are going to turn out and spit roast you. So they don't want that to happen to them. They don't want to wind up getting your booty traded for some Little Debbie snack cakes, some Fritos chips, some ramen noodles, or even a cup of coffee. I mean, guys don't want that to happen. So they just keep it moving and they just keep pushing. And they keep pushing because they understand that she's not worth me losing more important things. And when a man has to really think about his life, there are more important things than getting the attention of an extremely difficult female. And that's the thing that flies over some of the females' heads out here. They don't understand that when you are difficult like that, like when a man asks you and you just say no over and over again, it's not something he wants to deal with, trying to wear down your difficulties and try to figure you out. Because again, the hard to get female, what she wants to do is try to get you to figure out her problems, try to get you to try to keep trying to talk to her to figure out why things aren't working, and try to get you to see her in some way and try to help her out. But no guy has time for that in this era, because he just understands that it's just not worth his time, and it's just going to be one big headache after that. Because in the hard to get game, the guy just has to keep sitting there trying to figure this woman out. He has to keep trying to nudge stuff out of her, and he has to keep trying to figure out where things are going. And guys don't have time for that, because again, there's more women than men, and because there are more women than men, he's going to go to the females who are interested in him and the females who are looking to work with him towards building something. So he's not going to sit there and try to break down emotional walls. No, he doesn't have time for that, because a man only has a limited time to go out here and work towards building something in his life, and he doesn't want to waste it trying to break down some woman's emotional walls and work through all of these what hurts that make her hard to get. His job isn't the one of a psychotherapist, and that's another reason why a man just takes no for an answer and keeps it moving. Because when you have a female who's just sitting there talking about, oh, I said no, but then I want him to come back and pay attention to me, he just sees a lot of dysfunction in his direction. Because once you say no to a man who is a logical thinker, that's when he puts a period at the end of things these days, and that's when he keeps it moving, because he's not really going to be sitting up here trying to say, oh, she said no, and I need to find out why she's saying no. He's just going to say, okay, she said no, and now I'm going to keep it moving. So, okay, John, you say you've been sending the Cash App and you get your money back. I'm sorry about that. I have other options. I also have a PayPal option as well, and you can donate to PayPal if you want. And that's a link that I know is good because I put that one up there. So that's a link that I know. T-Mac, that's funny. Yep, if they do have Vaseline grease in there, and it gets used a lot. But the hard to get game is not one any woman wants to play, because it's a game you're going to lose. Now, back in the day, before the Clarence Thomas hearings and No Mean No, what woman could play that kind of game and get some simp to sit there and play the psychotherapist and try to figure her out as she drops little hints to what's bothering her and try to figure out what her little problems are. But the only guys who are doing that are your simps. And your simp, he'll sit there and be like, oh, why, what's wrong? What's bothering you? And try to listen to all of these stories. And that's what a simp is going to do. He's going to sit there and listen to all of the stories and listen to all of the drama and as related to the woman saying no. And he's still not going to get a date, because he's going to sit there and be the emotional tampon, winding up absorbing all of this crap, and then he's still not going to get a date. And that's another reason why your guy is not going to go out here and be persistent, because he understands trying to deal with this type of difficult female is just too much work. I mean, this kind of work that this guy is doing, sitting there and trying to listen to this woman go on and on and on about whatever her problems are, this is just a complete waste of his time. He's sitting there for hours on end trying to listen to this woman, and he doesn't know that he's being taken into a trap where he's just being strung along, and then eventually, after he's strung along, he winds up with nothing at the end. And that's what happens to many of the simps out here. But a lot of guys today, they understand that trying to work with that type of female, it's just not worth it, because you're wasting months, weeks, years of your life trying to get any type of connection with this woman. But there's no way you can connect with this kind of woman emotionally, because this woman has put up emotional walls, and because she's put up an emotional wall, everything you throw at that wall is going to just wind up hitting it and breaking, and nothing is going to break through, because she's just too hurt for you to deal with. And that's another reason why guys, when they hear this type of statement, they just wind up walking away, because they realize every time I try to make a connection, every time I try to reach this person, every time I try to prove that I'm a good man, she just doesn't see it, and she never will see it, because she doesn't see the good in herself. So, because she can't see the good in herself, she can't see the good in you, and because she keeps seeing the bad in herself, she projects it on you. And because she sees the bad in the man that she's dealing with, she also winds up projecting that bad on you. So there's no way you can connect with this kind of person. You could try 100 years and you would never get anywhere. And that's something many men understand these days. So they're sitting there going, look, if there's nothing I can do here. Either it's going to happen or it's not. So when they hear females talking about, oh, you need to be more persistent, they understand I don't need to be persistent if you're attracted to me. So when a woman is attracted to a man, a dude doesn't have to go out here and be super persistent. Usually she'll come up to you and let you know what time it is, and she will let you know what she wants to do. There's no need for you to go out here and go out, call yourself trying. It's just going to happen. It's just going to fall into a groove, and you don't have to sit up here trying to call yourself persuading people and convincing people. They already see your value, and people who see your value, they already want to be with you. You don't have to try to convince them of your value. You don't have to chase them, because that's what the hard to get woman likes people to do. She wants them to chase her so that they can see her value, but only guys with poor self-worth and poor self-value, those are the kind of guys who are going out here chasing women, because a man who knows his role as a man is a leader, and a guy who is a leader, he's not out here looking to chase any woman. No, he's looking for a woman who will follow his lead. He's looking for a woman who will be a helpmeet and a support to him, and he's looking for a partner who will work with him. So he's not looking to be the follower in the relationship. No, he's looking to be the leader in the relationship. And because he's looking to be the leader in the relationship, he's looking for those women who are looking to follow him. And that's what the guy who is a leader is looking for. He's like, look, she already said no when I asked, and he's only going to ask once, because that's another trait of a man these days. He's only going to ask once. And once he hears that no, he's going to keep it moving, because he understands that the no you gave him once just practically lets him know she's not interested, and it's just not, he's not going to waste any more time, because again, time is the most precious intangible to a man in this world, and a man who values his time, once somebody says no, he's going to realize that there's nothing else here, and he's just going to keep it moving. I mean, in my life, whenever I ask somebody once, I will just, and they say they're not interested, I will just move on in anything, whether it be your relationships, whether it be jobs, whether it be even trying to contact people about certain projects. I will ask maybe once, maybe twice, and if I see what's going on, they're not interested, I'm going to keep it moving. What's going on, Max Panther? Glad to see you here. He's a regular viewer of my content, and glad to see you here at the stream. But when a guy, he asks once, maybe twice at the most, that's if he likes you, he will ask twice. But if he sees that there's nothing going on, he's done. He's going to put a period at the end of things, and he's going to keep it moving to the next person and the next opportunity. That's just the way it goes in today's dating world, and that's the way it's always gone with the smart guys, even before the changes took place over 30 years ago. The smart guys, they were not really sitting here wasting time. They were sitting there saying, okay, I got the no, now I'm going to go on and look for other people. Now the simp, he'll sit there and be wallowing in pity with his head down, because he lives in a rose-colored reality, and he creates worlds around females. And when he hears the no, he just wants to sit there, and he thinks that his world is being shattered. And that's when the hard-to-get female gets leverage over the simp, because he has built the world around her, and then she gets power over him, because he's sitting there thinking, oh, she said no to me, and now that she has power, she'll go out here and then play these games with this guy. saying maybe to him, stringing him along, and then using him as the emotional tampon, then he has to absorb all her crap, and he winds up not getting any sort of date as related to any sort of relationship. So he's sitting there hoping, wishing, and praying something will happen with this difficult female, and she's stringing him along because she knows that this guy has low self-esteem, or he's extremely inexperienced, and he does not understand his role as a man. He does not understand his value as a man. He does not understand his worth as a man. So he will sit there and try to deal with this female, try to figure her out, try to figure out what's bothering her, try to figure out how he can make things better, try to figure out how he can fix things. But there is no fixing things with this kind of female, because this kind of female already let you know that she's not interested, and the only thing that she's interested in really is sating her ego by playing with you to get attention for herself. And she'll play games with you for months and even years if you let that happen. But the smart guy, he's going to sit there, hear what she had to say from minute one, say, okay, she's not interested, and he's going to just let it go and move on, because he's going to just say, look, I don't have time to deal with foolishness. I don't have time to deal with games. I have a lot of stuff that I'm trying to do. I have things that I'm trying to get done and accomplish. And if you're not about being on with me in my program, then I don't need to deal with you. And that's what any smart guy says from minute one. He's like, look, either you're interested or you're not. And if you're not interested, then I'm just going to leave you alone. And that's something that the simp doesn't know how to do. He's like just so starved for attention. He will deal with the hard to get woman, trying to go out here and try to persuade her, try to convince her, not understanding when you try to do these type of things, persuading and convincing, you are coming from a position of weakness, because a man who has to try to convince people, he doesn't have confidence in himself. A guy who has confidence in himself, he does not need to go out here and try to convince you that he's valuable. No, he understands his value. And if you're not interested, he walks away from those who don't see his value. That's something I learned way back when I was a teenager, and I still apply it now. I understand that if I don't see my value, I can't expect others to see my value. And every second you spend trying to call yourself persuading someone who said no, trying to convince somebody who said no, every second you spend trying to beg and plead, you lower your value to that person, and you lower your value to others because they see you as having poor self-worth, because you're looking extremely desperate. You're looking extremely, really just having no sense of understanding of how the optics are, because a guy who's out here and he's out here continuing to ask the same woman, every other woman is looking at him and saying to themselves, look at that weak dude. Look at that pathetic dude. He has no real intangibles as related to his character. He has no backbone. He has no stones. And he has nothing internal that shows me that he's going to have any sort of resolve in a time of crisis. Because the guy who's out here and he just keeps trying to persuade the same person, that's what everybody sees about him. They don't really see a guy who understands that he's his own self-worth, because if he's out here just going out here and just going up to the same woman over and over again because he wants to have just that one woman, it just really makes him look pathetic in the whole social circles that are all around. I mean, okay, Kenneth. Well, Obama was a beta male, Kenneth, and we see that by the way he behaves. And he got rejected by Michelle, but he had no backbone. and that's why he's got the wife that he's got. I mean, that was because a guy who gets rejected, he has to know how to take no for an answer and keep it moving. And that's what happens to a lot of guys out here who they don't know how to do that. And your Obama, he didn't know how to do that, and that's why he got Michelle, because he just was looking for anybody out here, because he was out here with a lot of Beckys, and he just wanted to have a black woman on his arm to make it look optically like he was about being with black people. So when I look at Obama, he's a textbook beta male, and beta males, they will just take anyone because they don't really understand their self-worth, and they don't understand their value as men. So they will take a woman who says no to them, not understanding when you deal with women who say no to you, you lower your value as a man, and that's why those women do not respect them. I mean, if you look at the way Michelle Obama was on the arms of George W. Bush, that was clear disrespect to him. But most people, they're not really looking at those pictures optically to see how the former president was completely being disrespected by his wife, talking about how she likes some other man. That's just a sign of complete disrespect, but that flies over his head because he doesn't understand that if a woman really loves a man, she's going to be talking about her man, not some other dude. I mean, when I saw that picture and I saw her talking about George W. Bush, I mean, I looked at that and I said, that is the ultimate disrespect a man can be shown. And that's not any woman who loves her man, she's going to be talking about him 24/7. She can't stop talking about him, but the whole thing is, when a guy is just clueless, he'll sit there and go along with stuff, not understanding, okay, if she's talking about another dude, this is disrespectful to me, because when a woman is emotionally engaged and connected to a man, she's going to be, only person she's going to be talking about is him, and she cannot shut up about him. I've seen women online who have been married for years, and they love their husbands. That's all they talk about. They don't talk about no other dude like this. But this is what happens when you just don't know how things work. And again, guys who don't know how things work, they keep trying to be so-called persistent, thinking, oh, if I wear her down, this will be an accomplishment. This will show how successful I am. But it just shows how much of a failure they are as related to relationships. Thank you, Ronald, for the Cash App. I really appreciate it. If you guys want to donate to the Cash App, you can donate to the Cash App as well. And I'm going to leave a link to that once more. But the whole thing is that these guys, they don't understand that, sometimes no is a blessing. And sometimes a woman saying no is a blessing, because it means that you have an option to get with a woman you really want. So that's something a lot of the beta male simps don't understand, that, okay, she said no, but sometimes no is a blessing in disguise, because when a woman says no, what it means is that, okay, this isn't the woman for you, and you now have an opportunity to go out here and pursue a woman who is more interested in you. What's going on, God's spiritual poet? Glad to see you here. He's a regular viewer of my videos, and I'm glad to have him on the chat. But sometimes a no. Okay, thank you for the Cash App. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it, God's spiritual poet. But I really look at it and it's like, okay, no is not a bad thing, and that's one of the things that the guys who keep pursuing used to not understand. No is not a bad thing, and I talk about this in my upcoming book, Stop Simping in Cyberspace, which you guys can pre-order on Amazon right now on Kindle. You can pre-order Stop Simping in Cyberspace, and I talk about the whole concept. Get that book. I'm gonna leave a link to that one in the chat. And a woman saying no is not a bad thing. I mean, a lot of guys they get their feelings into it and they want to get hurt, but that's part of you getting that thick skin. Once you get that thick skin, the no's, you're not even phased by them, and then you start realizing, okay, she said no, that's not a problem. It doesn't mean that anything bad. It doesn't mean that she doesn't like me. It means she's just not the one for me. And if she's not the one for me, then that's a blessing because I may be possibly dodging a bullet. And when it comes to these kind of women who are sitting here talking about they want to be pursued like this, where they say no and the guy keeps chasing them, you practically are dodging a bullet because this is an extremely difficult female, and this is a difficult female who will just become more difficult over time as you get involved with her. So this, a lot of guys don't see the blessing in disguise by that no, but I see the blessing in disguise as related to that woman saying no, because you're not dealing with all of the stress, you're not dealing with all of the headaches, you're not dealing with all of the drama, and you're able to go out here and have other opportunities, and those opportunities may better benefit you because now you have an opportunity to deal with the kind of women who want to work with you, the kind of women who will be more cooperative, and the kind of women who will show you respect, because it is extremely disrespectful for a female to sit there and say no to you, then come back to you hoping that you'll say yes, because that kind of female shows no respect for you as a man and shows no respect for your intangibles like your manhood, your masculinity, and most importantly, your time. Because anybody who is indecisive and waffly like that, they are wasting, they think it's okay to waste your time, play games with you. And guys, that's not something you want to deal with. Oh, I said no, but now I want to say yes. People don't have time for that kind of foolishness, and they don't have time for this iffy, sometimey kind of person, because this kind of iffy, sometimey kind of person is eventually going to become a headache to deal with. And you don't need that kind of stress in your life from this iffy, sometimey kind of person. You want to deal with somebody who is dedicated and committed to wanting to share their life with you. And you want to deal with somebody who is committed and dedicated to being in a relationship with you and not wanting to go out here and play these kind of manipulative games, because these kind of manipulative games are extremely dishonest. And only a dishonest female is going to sit there and go, oh, I said no to him. Why isn't he still pursuing? Because if you were genuinely honest, once that man made that approach, you would go out here and try to reciprocate that approach and let that man know you were interested. If you were honest, you would let that man know you were interested from minute one. Because again, in the first 5 seconds of looking at a dude, a female knows whether or not she wants to be with him or spend time with him. And that's what an honest woman is going to do. And an honest woman is going to go out of her way to be with the kind of guys she wants to be with. And she's going to go towards the kind of guys she wants to be with. So she's going to be in the places where that guy is, and she's going to find ways to let that guy know she's available. But the hard to get female, she wants to try to play these kind of games as related to availability, and she really does not want anything from a guy but attention. She wants drama, and she wants to string a guy along for as long as she can string him. And that's just, again, disrespectful to you, because she's showing no respect for you as anybody, she as a leader, because she does not respect you, because she wants to try to play a game to get you to see her as the valuable one that needs to be chased. And she wants to go out here, put yourself in this submissive position under her, and she wants to play these kind of games that wind up with her trying to get her self-esteem validated by this guy chasing her. And that's disrespectful to you as a man, because if you go out here and do this, it just turns, it just has you chasing her. And when you're chasing her, she's dictating the relationship. And when she dictates the relationship, that's not going to be a place you want to be. And in that place, you wind up getting disrespected, because nothing you do will ever be appreciated. Nothing you do will ever be seen as valuable. Nothing you do will ever be good enough, because you're going to be chasing her ridiculous and impossible standards, which are going to get more and more unrealistic over time. Because just as you jump through one set of hoops, she will create another and another and another, and it just becomes one big nightmare to deal with. Ray, thank you for sharing about cyber simping. You can tell your friends that Stop Simping in Cyberspace is coming on October 25th, and this book will help you understand will help all those cyber simps understand that online is not a place to go out here and pursue women. This book will teach you that, you know, what's online are a bunch of predators, because any woman of character, she can easily find men in her own community, and any woman of character is not going to have a problem finding a partner. Only thing that's online are a lot of predators, and the only thing online are a lot of death traps, like the one I talked about in a video today. I think the one, I forget what her name is. I'm gonna go over here. Oh, I don't need to go. I'm gonna. So I did a video about this woman. Yeah, Angela Tremonte. That's what her name was. Her name was Angela Tremonte, and Angela Tremonte, she went out here. She was dealing with this guy online, and because the guy couldn't get any claws, I believe, on the mountain, he left her on a mountain to die. And it was extremely egregious that what happened to her. But that's what happens when you do a lot of online dating. And on online dating, again, you don't know who's on the other end of that computer. And that's something I talk about in Stop Simping in Cyberspace, these kind of predators and how dangerous they are. And I also, if you guys want to know how much a copy of Stop Simping worth, also, it's $14.99 in paperback, Max Panther. So it's only $14.99, but it will save you hundreds and thousands of dollars. And Stop Simping in Cyberspace will help you keep your job. So the cyberspace simp I'm going to be going into in another future live stream. I've got that book, you know, laid out and it's ready to go. Let me see what's going on with this mic. Okay, I think let's see. I with StreamYard I can turn it on, turn it off. But you check. You check. Okay. Check. That's funny. Tinder belongs to DJ Kid and Chad Wheeler. Yeah, those white boys. Yeah, they be running through them on those online apps. And those online apps, only thing that's on there are predators. And that's something that you have to understand about these kind of guys who are on online dating. These are low seed guys who have no social skills, no interpersonal skills, and they have to go online because there's nobody out there that wants them, nobody they can really talk about to. So they go on to these online apps because the women out there are desperate and they can take advantage of them. We've got 82 watching. We got 66 likes. Let's get the likes up. Let's get them up to 80, because if we've got 80 in the room, we can get this up and help with the algorithm. And that can really help, again, expand the channel, because one of the things I'm trying to do is expand the channel in spite of the YouTube shadow ban and try to get things going, because a lot of people say I should have 6-figure subs. And if we can get this going on, we can probably get people and get the numbers up. Computer Robots X, do you think the way how children become adults were taught to do this? And do you think that the African proverb of a moral position of its women relates to this? I think that what happens with a lot of children over the last 30 years is they were taught this whole concept of no means no by the mainstream media. And the moral position of our women has become so compromised that they are sitting there thinking that they can go out here and get attention from men, not understanding that there are consequences to actions. Because one of the problems I see with a lot of women in today's society, they're so spoiled that they think that everything that they do has no consequence, and they don't understand the concept of cause and effect. And because they don't understand the concept of cause and effect, they just think, oh, I can go out here and implement some sort of change, and there's not going to be any sort of consequence to it. And that's what's happened over the last 30 plus years. And that's what's happened. And that's why so many women are sitting there going, oh, I can go out here and institute a change like no means no. I can institute a change like Me Too. And I can go out here and make these changes, but guys are supposed to stay the same. But what happens with men is they wind up adapting, and they wind up becoming completely different creatures, because they have to adapt to survive and they have to adapt to live. Glad you heard about me from Minister John Faulkner. Another one of the viewers in the stream, I'm going to go up to him, and he said that he found me from the stream, found me from Minister Jack as well. And I got a lot of viewers because he saw my video, Why Smart Men Avoid Single Mothers. And a lot of subs came over from that one video that I did about, what is that, 2012? That was back when I was wearing the shirts and the ties. Yeah, Mr. Russell Radio said he found me from listening to Minister Jap. And that was a video where a lot of people found me talking about men's issues. And it was a video where I got a lot of subs from that one video. And that video has gotten over 50,000 views. And it's one of the most popular videos I've ever done. But I did that video because I didn't want to see guys getting taken advantage of. This is a guy who lives here in the South Bronx, and I've seen so many guys get taken advantage of by single mothers. I've seen so many guys get played by single moms and get used, because a lot of these women are the same type of women like this woman on Twitter who just sat there and talked about, oh, why are men no longer persuasive? They're crap testers who play these kind of games, and these kind of games that these kind of women play can get a guy locked up. These kind of games that these females play can get a guy killed. And while they sate their ego as related to the disrespect that they're showing you, you're the guy who's sitting there locked up in prison, as Bubba and Tiny are trading you for Little Debbie snack cakes, your ramen noodles, your cups of coffee, and other commissary items, because these kinds of females, they are extremely insecure. And because they are extremely insecure, they just sit there and they look to try to get attention from guys and try to get drama going. Thank you, The BS is Real, for the Cash App. I really appreciate it. Again, if you guys want to donate to the Cash App, you can donate to the Cash App as well. And I'm going to leave another link to that in the chat, because it's a long one going on. But a lot of these females, they'll sit there and they'll play these kind of games with you because they don't have much going on. And because they know they don't have much going on, they have low value. They try to play the hard to get games. They try to play the no, yes games with guys. And it's all an effort to sate their little egos. And you can't let her sate her ego by devaluing you. No, you have to understand your value as a man. You have to understand your worth as a man. And a man who understands his worth understands that if she says no one time, if she does not call you back one time, or she's not available to pick up a text one time, then clearly she's not interested, because if she were interested, she would get back to you almost immediately. Usually, all a guy who has to do, if he's got a phone number, he will call once and she will automatically be available. He will text once and she will be available. And she will be available because she wants to spend time with that man. But the guys who she doesn't really care about, she's going to play these kind of games, string these guys along, and keep these guys going on and on and on. And that's something that happens to a lot of these guys, because they are still trying to hold on to archaic methods of thinking, oh, I can convince her, I can impress her. No, you cannot convince her. No, you cannot impress her. And if she's not interested, she's not interested. And no amount of effort you make to try to convince and impress her is going to make anything change. So that's one of the things that a lot of guys have to understand. And that's one of the things I wanted guys to understand, because when I looked at this tweet on Twitter talking about who noticed that men are no longer persuasive, once they ask you out, they say no, case closed. Well, that's the way it has to be. And that's the way it always was for men who understood their value. Men who understood their value understood that once I make an offer and you turn it down, that's the end of things, because I value myself. And because I value myself, I'm not going to waste my time trying to go out here and trying to sell somebody something that they don't want. I mean, any salesman out here who understands business, they understand the art of selling is understanding the value of the product. And if what I'm offering is not what you're looking for, then I don't have to go out here and keep pushing, because if I keep pushing to a customer a product that they don't want, I'm lowering the value of the product in the eye of not only that customer, but other potential customers, because I'm trying to sell somebody something they don't want. And by me going out here and lowering the value by not taking no for an answer, it just shows that this product really does not have any sort of value whatsoever. And that's something that flies over the heads of many other people that's related to another subject that I can't talk about here. But when something is valuable, when somebody has worth, when somebody understands their value, they are not lowering their value for others. No, they understand their value, and they don't have to announce that they understand their value with words. They do it with actions, and the actions that they take whenever a female says no and they aren't interested is to just charge them to the game and move on. And then after they charge them to the game, they just go out here and pursue other people. And some people, in the face of a cold rejection from a female who's really nasty, what they will do is go out here and laugh it off, because again, a man who understands his value, he's not going to go out here and feel devalued by a hard, cold rejection. No, he's going to sit there and say, okay, she's just not interested. Doesn't look like she's into me. And he's going to have a good laugh at it, and he's going to brush it off and be on his way. So he's not going to sit there and be fazed by it, because once a man builds up a thick enough skin from rejection, he will sit there and not even be fazed by the no's. He's not even going to even feel it. Because I know when I was doing query letters for my book, Temptation of John Haynes, I had reached that point where the no's, I didn't even feel them anymore. And I remember one time an agent sent me a letter saying I'm not interested, and I just went back to work, and I was like, what happened here? It's like before, it's like I would feel a little bit of a sting now and again, but at that point, I just didn't feel anything. And the whole thing is, you have to build your skin up to that point where you don't even feel it anymore, and you just go on about your business. And it's a tough thing to do, but eventually, it's something you have to do. And some guys build their skin up really early, and they just deal. They once they get that toughness, they just go, okay, yeah, move on, or they just go back to what they were doing before. Because some people, like a lot of these chicks who do this type of stuff, talking about, well, I said no, and then he didn't come back to ask again. They don't understand. The guy who's got thick skin, he's just gonna be like, yeah, and move on, and he's gonna do that because, again, one, he understands his value as a man. Two, he's built a thick enough skin to understand that no is a blessing, and he understands that it's not going to hurt him emotionally if somebody says no to him. It just means that that person isn't interested, and it means that there's an opportunity for him for a better person or a better relationship. So that guy, he understands, okay, she's saying no, but no is not a bad thing. No is never a bad thing. And sometimes you don't know what no means, but a lot of guys, they sit there and they think, oh, no is bad. It means I'm a bad person. No, it doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It just means she's not interested. And once she says no, you can just go on with your life. And sometimes it's just you feel so much better when you go on with your life because it's just not worth your time to sit here and dwell on those who aren't interested. So thank you, John, for the Cash App. I really appreciate it. Again, if you guys want to donate to the Cash App, you can donate to the Cash App. And again, 100% of those funds go to me. Whereas with the Super Chats, Google takes a third of it. But the Cash Apps go directly to me. And it really helps me keep the channel going. And I wanted to do this kind of stream because I wanted to really go in depth on this type of person, because this is the type of predator that can really jack up a guy's, life, and have him out here looking to continue to beg and plead and thinking that, oh, if I go out here and I persuade this female, if I go out here and I keep asking, if I go out here and I keep talking, eventually she will be sold on me. But they don't really understand that you are pandering. And again, pandering comes from a position of weakness. You want to come from a position of strength. And a position of strength, a guy is not out here begging somebody to see his value. No, a man who doesn't go out here and need to beg somebody to see what's good about him. He knows what's good about him. And because he knows what's valuable about him, he's not going to lower the value of what he has to offer. And he's going to make sure that people understand that he is valuable. And he's going to be like many business owners who say the price is the price. Now, when you go to a business and they have product, you can't go out here and lower the value of the price through haggling in a lot of cases, because that lowers the value of the product. That means that the people don't really believe in the product's value. But a person who understands the value of a product, the price is the price. And if you want to buy said product, you're going to pay that price for that product. And the same thing with a man. He's going to understand, if you want to spend time with me, you understand that my value is what it is. And if you want to be in my life, you have to understand my value as a man. So he's not going to lower his value trying to chase a female. No, he's going to understand that if she wants to be here, she needs to understand that there's a program that I have. And if you want to be a part of that program, you have to show me that you're going to want to cooperate and be a part of the team, and not go out here and try to lead the team, because that's what a lot of these type of predatory females try to do. They want to undermine the man and lower his value, then have him chasing a female who really is not worth chasing because you're not, as the leader, why should you be following the female? That's a critical question many guys have to understand as related to these kind of females. Why should you be following her lead? I mean, when you are the leader, because when you go out here and keep trying to convince this kind of female, what you are doing is saying that I am not a leader, I am a follower, and I am a very weak man. So you don't want that to be what is said about you, and you don't want to present that about yourself because that's how you go from being the head of the household to becoming emasculated and weak. And I don't want to see a guy go out like that because when you see these, again, kind of tweets on Twitter, they are meant to try to get your attention. They are meant to try to get you end up playing into a crap test. And they are meant to try to get you going out here, looking to go out here and try to persuade somebody who never was interested in you at all. Now, I'm going to get ready to wrap up tonight's stream. And if you want to pick up some of the books that will help you out, like Stop Simping in the Workplace, will help you on the job, and pick up other, I'll put that link in the chat, and pick up the other book, Stop Simping, the original Stop Simping, which has transformed so many lives all across the world. That to help you out. Yeah, Gabriel, I'm gonna watch that show, and that show that guy, he was putting through all that type of stuff. And I also have another book called Man Crisis, which has helped a lot of men out. And all of these books will change your life and transform your life as a man and help you move your life forward. And these books have helped men all over the world. And I want to see guys understand what's going on with these type of predatory females so that they can avoid them. Now, I also have the upcoming Stop Simping in Cyberspace available as well. And again, this book is going to help you deal with online predators. And this book will help you deal with online predators who try to take advantage of men. So all of these books, I wrote them to help men be able to understand their value, understand their worth, understand their role as stewards in God's order, and become the kind of men who can navigate the world and be able to survive in the world and deal with all of these types of predatory females. So those are some of the books that I believe will help you, and I believe they'll help you move your life forward. So I'm hoping that you guys will come out here and pick up some of those books and start learning some things about these predatory females. And I'm gonna leave an announcement because AEW Rampage is coming on next week. So I'm gonna make next Friday stream, if I'm around, available it's gonna start at 11 p.m. not 10. It's gonna start at 11 p.m. on next Friday. So that's because of AEW Rampage. So I want everybody to know in advance, when I do a live stream, it's going to be 11 p.m. So set your clocks for 11 p.m. That's when the show is going to start. And I hope you'll be there for next week's show. And I hope you'll check out next week's show. Computer Robots, I hope to have them on Audible one of these days, but I just have to find somebody to read them or be able to pay somebody to read them. And I need to work out how that's going to work. I might even just read them myself. So we'll see what happens. Thank you, Mobar717. I'm glad you really enjoyed The Man Crisis. And I'm hoping more men pick up those books like The Man Crisis, because all of those books, again, they'll help you in your life and they'll help you transform your life. And I want to thank everybody for coming out to tonight's stream. I want to thank everybody who donated to the Super Chat. And I want to thank everybody who donated to the Cash App. And I hope you'll be there for next week's stream at 11 p.m. So everybody have a good night and everybody have a great weekend.